Oh, Steve and Larson! Don't you dare be sour. Clap for yourselves and feel the power. Yes. And all you people out there, you're watching Going In Raw with Steve and Larson.
Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you can be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Taped live at twitch.tv/Steve and Larson, where we are on the road to 500 subs. Man, we got blasted with subs today, Larson. We're at 434 out of 500. So if you want to see Steve and Larson do a 24-hour stream, if you want to make our lives truly miserable, then by all means, hit us up on the Twitch at twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. Throw us a sub over there.
Here's the thing. On an average day, like right now, I'm exhausted. I'm tired.
Yeah, that's you usually.
That's my normal state of being.
Right.
Put me in a 24-hour stream scenario.
Oh, man.
I'm going to be miserable,
Oh.
but I'm going to be miserable for your entertainment.
Do you think our relationship, our friendship, our business arrangement will survive a 24-hour stream, Larson?
Honestly, no, but we promised it, so it must happen.
Frankly, no. I don't think there's any question about it. We won't survive. If you want to see the end of Steve and Larson, now that might turn people out. People might want to see us continue, man. I make sure we continue. Anyways.
You know, it could be a situation like tonight where Ray loses an eye, but then they have a backstage segment, health update. Hey, so long as that optic nerve's still attached, the blood flows good, pop that eye back in, good to go.
So long as these two idiots can't make money elsewhere, they're probably going to have to stay together.
Really no other choice.
Speaking of no other choice, we had no other choice but to watch Extreme Rules tonight, Larson. What a weird pay-per-view.
There's a lot of good. There's a lot of weird.
Yeah.
Like, all the wrestling was good. There were some weird finishes.
It was.
There were some cheesy finishes. There was a really confusing conclusion. I didn't call it a finish because I don't think it was supposed to be a finish.
Not actually a finish.
Not a finish. It was, it just left you kind of like sitting there wondering what you just saw. Granted, I watched it on an iPad, and so it was dark, and there's a lot of stuff I feel like I couldn't make out very well. But I don't really think that matters too much.
I don't think you really missed much, to be honest with you.
But like every match, I thought was really entertaining.
I was never bored, dude. I was never bored. In fact, there were quite a bit. I mean, the wrestling, the actual wrestling was really good. It was just like, okay, I'm going through Steve Notes right now, which you can get exclusively by joining Friendo Club.
Too many matches, kind of unfortunately, were really good, but then kind of torpedoed by necessary storylines. There
was three really good finishes. The rest of them were either pedestrian or like sort of anticlimactic. I'll just say that because I don't want to like get into what I thought about everything because we're about to do that in our recap. I did appreciate this. Storylines moved along. I mean, even Bray versus Braun. We could just go over that really quick before we go into the minutia of it. Like Bray versus Braun ended on do you remember? Didn't they do that finish for Freddie versus Jason? Like they both like bring each other down into the water. Maybe Jason emerged at the end. I forget.
Well, it's all to set up the sequel, though. That's kind of the idea, though.
Was there a sequel to that movie, though?
I don't know if there was necessarily a sequel to that particular film, but you know the idea that you kind of have a very open-ended ending.
Yeah.
Because you know there's something else going to happen. So we know, granted not with absolute certainty, but got a pretty good sense that we're going to get Braun Bray for the title actually at SummerSlam. And so, you know, Braun stated goal going into this swamp fight. I got to take Bray out now so I don't have to face the Fiend because he doesn't think he can beat the Fiend.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? What's the last image we saw of the show tonight?
The Fiend.
So he didn't beat Bray. Fiend emerged. So Braun, he's basically got no chance now.
So like not to get into like too deep into fantasy booking on this one, I do kind of feel like, okay, given that, and I know this was part of Bray's parlor tricks, if you will. But we saw Braun confront past Braun at one point. It's not entirely, given that there is such a distinction between Bray and The Fiend. And look, this is all silly stuff, whatever. But like, I do kind of feel like your method of like what you had predicted in predictions probably would have made more sense. If Braun actually did submerge Bray, Bray's dead, but then The Fiend appears before him, and that sets up SummerSlam. Like, then we go to black or whatever. And that sets up SummerSlam. That would make more sense than, I mean, Braun essentially at this point, obviously he's not dead. He's going to show up on Friday or the next Friday.
Yeah.
But
sorry, it's a situation too where we, I'm sure it'd be great for Bray to have Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt in his back pocket if he ever wants to use it for storyline purposes again. But this could have been a really good way for Bray in terms of delving into the history of his own character, like you saw him do with the Firefly Funhouse match with John Cena. Kind of put that period of his career that there was a lot of ups and downs, kind of put that to rest, and say, all right, not only is this feud with Braun an effort to reconnect you with your origins, Braun, it's a way for me to kind of escape my own and to kind of evolve to the next stage, fully evolve to the next stage of my career. But maybe that's reading too much into it.
Yeah, maybe. PJ Juice here in the chat really quick says, how do I access Steve Notes if I have a Twitch sub? I just sent them out prior to the show starting, so you should check your email or your Twitch notifications. I'll send out another email really quick before we get too deep into it. Yeah,
before we get to the bit by bit, let's talk about this eyeball situation.
Please do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to be in the
thumbnail.
The thumbnail. I think so. Yeah.
So going into it, I kind of thought it was a 50-50 proposition. Who was going to lose an eye?
Sure.
I could see reasoning either way. In the end, it was Rey Mysterio. That eyeball popped out in much the same fashion as I was injured in the first place. Seth ramming at the core of the ring steps. And so quickly, same kind of spot happens. Rey falls back to the mat and the floor, excuse me. And just through between his fingers, real quick, you can see a little bit of eyeball. You're like, oh, dang, that's messed up. Until you see the still, and it's like, wow, that's a really bad fake eye.
Yeah.
But leading up to that, I thought the match was fun. I was on the edge of my seat just because I want to know how are they going to get that eyeball out of there? How graphic was it going to be? Were they going to use CGI as rumored? Was it going to be like just a bunch of blood involved? What exactly was going to happen? So there's a lot of suspense in terms of from a production standpoint. How are they going to handle the gore in this match?
Yeah,
and as expected, though, they kind of went the Party City route.
Yeah, they did. When you see the still, it looks very silly and it looks very fake. That being said, they only showed that still for like 5, maybe 10 frames. It was maybe like 10.
If you weren't paying attention, you probably missed it.
I didn't miss it necessarily because I was waiting for it because I heard you guys' reactions like seconds before mine. But even having advance warning, I barely saw it. So I think it was effective in that way when you're live.
Yeah, totally.
I think that there could have been a bit more. They actually could have shown a bit more for the shock value. Seth throwing up, I thought was pretty funny.
That was fantastic.
It was pretty. I liked it. I like that kind of stuff, man. I think that stuff is great.
Because I think that's a natural human reaction. You see something potentially. Because what happens is Seth rams Rey into the ring steps. Rey falls to the mat and the floor. Seth kind of circles around. He turns around like to go back towards Rey and sees what happens and stops. Like he can't. Like this is horrifying. His eye popped out. It's disgusting. And he has a pretty natural human reaction. He's horrified, and when you're overwhelmed with certain emotions, sometimes you just throw up.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And that's what happened.
I don't even remember the last time I threw up when I wasn't hungover or I wasn't drunk. Like, or ill for that matter.
Yeah, just based on some sort of outside stimulus, you're saying.
I understand it can happen. I don't think it's ever, I don't know if it's happened to me.
I think there might have been at times where it happened to me, but not because of
like emotion.
Yeah, it was maybe like something smelled really bad, and I thought it was gross.
And then you threw up. You threw up. Hey, you threw up fishing.
Yeah, that was from being seasick, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's just dive into this, man. I got my Steve notes up. I just sent them back out to the Twitch subs, so check your emails. We had a kickoff show with a pretty decent match between Kevin Owens and Buddy Murphy. This was announced at the very last minute. Kevin Owens won with a stunner. It had all the seeds. Like, if this was an actual feud with an actual match that actually mattered, I could see this being, pretty killer. But given that, there's just the bare bones of a story here with Kevin Owens dealing with Seth Rollins and his crew, sort of tangentially on Raw, same time as Rey Mysterio was. Not a lot going on here, but that being said, these guys can honestly put on a match in their sleep, and I'd be happy with it. Kevin Owens went over with a stunner. I gave it 2.5 stars. It's a kickoff show, no build, but these two guys are great. After that, we had the New Day defending their SmackDown tag titles against Cesaro and Nakamura. Man, I thought this was a really creative, if a bit short match. You get all these guys in there. Cesaro, you and I have always said, is one of the most creative wrestlers WWE has. He's always bringing something new to the table. I figured that, add tables to the mix. This wasn't going to be some silly anticlimactic thing. This finish was something else, man.
Yeah, because the way you go in these tables matches, someone will kind of accidentally go through one, and their opponent will win because of it, which, depending on the story, can be effective, but far too often it's kind of like, oh, all right. Someone just got out of the way of like a top rope fun splash. The other person went through a table. They lose. All right.
Right.
There is no ambiguity in this situation about who won this match.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. But there's a lot of great back and forth. One thing about table matches, there's a great sense of urgency throughout, because you want to get your opponent through the table as quickly as possible so that you don't go through the table first. It's a pretty basic storyline, but in the hands of the New Day, Nakamura and Cesaro, done really effectively. As you mentioned, fun, creative. Nakamura and Cesaro, they powerbomb Kofi Kingston off the top rope through 2 tables ringside, leaving no doubt who won this match.
This was very decisive, and like I said, it wasn't even long. And you know what I liked about it? They did a couple spots where it was like, whoa, somebody almost went. But these matches, they always go so overboard with I'm teetering, about to fall through.
Yeah,
and they didn't really do this. Yeah, they didn't.
And this match did follow the classic wrestling trope. Usually, at least in WWE, if you set up the table, you end up going through it.
Right, yeah.
So it was a New Day who stacked up those 2 tables on top of each other. They end up going through it. They lose, and then after Nakamura and Cesaro win those tag titles, Cesaro goes over the commentary table, lays his belt on there, and just starts talking trash.
Yeah, man.
It was pretty great.
Yeah, a lot of people want to stick it to Michael Cole for what they perceive as a slight.
He's got a lot of heat, and he's not even heel commentator anymore.
Exactly. I gave this match 3 stars.
Really?
It was just a really short match.
It was
like
short.
I do feel like, look, that was a really powerful finish, but maybe I should have given it 3.5. Screw it, I'll give it 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5 seems fair.
Okay, I like the collaborative effort here. It was really short. That finish was amazing. But I feel a little bit more drawn. That's what I actually gave. Like, a lot of the matches tonight, just the straight up matches, I feel like they could have been drawn out a little bit longer. A little bit longer, just for a little, like the Bayley Nikki Cross one, a little bit longer, I think could have really heightened the drama there. Speaking of which, after that we had, according to the Steve notes, Asuka, Nikki, and Kyrie were all hyping up Nikki.
You forgot somebody.
I replaced somebody. I replaced Alexa with Nikki because Nikki wasn't hyping up her, so I guess she kind of was.
There you go.
But her friends were all hyping her up.
Yes.
And they're all like, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. And then right as she's about to go in, Kyrie Sane says, even if you lose, we'll still be your friends.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That match was up next. And again, this is a really fun match, man. It started off with Nikki just doling out these fun splashes. Did one off the top, a second one off the top, and then a fun splash off the apron. That was so much fun. Yeah, that was great.
Nikki had control of this match for a lot of it, especially early on. She hits a swinging neck breaker pretty much immediately. Bayley kicks out, rolls out of the ring. As you mentioned, tornado DDTs, bunch of fun splashes off the top rope, off the apron. Bayley does turn the tables for a bit. Takes control kind of the middle part somewhat. There's this bit where Bayley pulls Nikki between the apron and the curtain ringside, something that Nikki does quite often. Lays some shots on her. goes to the commentary and shows whatever she's got cut into the back of her hair. While she's doing that, Nikki crawls under the ring to the opposite side, pops up over there. Bayley runs in the ring, tries for a sliding drop kick. Nikki evades, pulls her down, traps her between the apron and the curtain, lays in some shots. She has the upper hand for a while. And it takes interference from Sasha to get Bayley that W. So Bayley's kind of on the losing end of things. Sasha hands her the boss ring that she wears. She gets on the apron, distracts the ref. Bayley decks Nikki in the gut with the ring, hits the rose plant, or I don't know what they're calling it now in WWE, but that's what it was in the Indies, I think, to get the win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only disappointment I had in this match, I gave it 3 stars. The only disappointment I had in this match was, again, a little short, sort of a pretty conventional ending for this match, Bayley cheating. And then, of course, Nikki Cross did not throw up, even though she did get the body shot, which I feel like really should have resulted in some vomiting, which we saw a little bit later.
True.
After that, we had a tease for a Firefly Funhouse thing. Was this more than a tease, or was it Bray just saying something really quick?
Let me check my notes.
It was just like maybe it was just a, hey, this is coming up soon.
Oh no. There's that montage of weird stuff, and then we cut to this like mad scientist laboratory.
Oh, that was
Bray's there. And he's and so he's like, I'm gonna present to you the most horrifying thing known to man. And they cut to a quick bit of the karaoke showdown. Do the record scratch. And he talks to someone off camera. It's like, hey, I get what you're trying to do there. Not funny. You rolled the wrong tape.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
pretty
he goes
funny.
on to promote, to push the swamp fight later on. Yeah,
that was good stuff.
That was good.
So this was kind of confusing, but I guess understandable. It's been kind of, at least WWE's released a statement about it. So MVP and Apollo Crews, they had, I think, an interview during the kickoff where they had mentioned that Apollo Crews was staying at home or something, but I didn't really give it much thought because I just figured this is all kayfabe and they're going to come out there and announce MVP as the champion, and then Apollo Crews is going to show up. Yeah. They came out there, they announced MVP as the new champion, and then they started walking up the ramp, and right as they got up on the ramp, nothing happened. So Apollo Crews is apparently legitimately out. What's the latest on that?
So apparently, that mentioned on the broadcast, though I couldn't really hear it, that Apollo Crews didn't pass his pre-match physical. He has a bulging disc in his back, but Wrestling Inc. seemed to think that was a kayfabe injury. Mm-hmm. Though obviously not confirmed. It's entirely possible he's a wrestler. Wrestlers, fall on their back all the time. A bulging disc is entirely possible. But still unknown exactly the reason for Crews to not be there.
Yeah, so he hasn't been there since, I believe you said it was the June 29th episode of Raw?
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been a while. So hopefully whatever he's dealing with, he's okay, and he'll be back soon. I like MVP a lot. I think it's cool that he's just the U.S. champion now. We'll see where that goes, if it's going to be a split between him and Bobby, if Bobby goes after that, or how they handle this, but that'll be interesting.
Yeah, apparently commentary said too during the segment that, or Cole said that MVP is not the official U.S. champion. Crews just made himself U.S. champion.
Okay, you mean MVP just made himself?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
MVP
so it's still not on the books as a real thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they'll have a match, I would assume, unless Crews is going to be out for a protracted period of time.
Yeah.
And then they'll have something where they'll have to strip him of the title and do something to crown a new champion.
Yeah, it's always interesting because I know a lot of people here in chat are speculating, given what we're going through right now, that there might be, complications with the coronavirus stuff. That's always a possibility. I mean, look, man, you don't know. You just don't know because WWE, they'll issue their statement. Obviously, the full Nelson didn't actually do anything to Apollo Crews. I think we can all probably agree on that. Apollo Crews is a very physical wrestler. He's a very athletic wrestler. Any number of his moves might have resulted in some injury, maybe even a bulging disc. But yeah, I mean, it could be cover for something else. We don't know. Hopefully, whatever it is, he's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
After that, man, we had eye for an eye. And again, I thought this was a pretty clever match. Early on, we saw Rey Mysterio go after a toolbox. Of course, Seth Rollins showed up with a wrench in hand. So these guys
have his pocket.
These guys weren't messing around. They weren't trying to do this the easy way. They were going to do it any means necessary.
Yep.
I'd like to think that they maybe saw some of those Italian cannibal movies. I believe there was some eye gouging back then. Maybe they saw Hostel. I don't know. Can you think of any other influences they might have looked at?
The two the most famous one is from an Italian zombie movie, where there's that piece of wood from like a door.
It's zombie? I think it's just called Zombie or Zombie.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there was some good wrestling here. We got to see a Falcon Arrow on the apron.
I thought he was going to hit him with like a Steiner screwdriver, because he picked him up like that, and held him up there for a little bit.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah. Oof. And we saw all sorts of weapons. Of course, you mentioned the wrench. And we also saw at various times a kendo stick used to try to take out an eyeball, a piece of rebar, an awl. Am I missing anything? A chair?
Could you please, for the people who might not know what an awl is, go ahead and tell them.
So this particular one, it's like a flathead screwdriver.
It's like a chisel, isn't it?
The shaft of that, yeah. It's like a flathead screwdriver, but rather than a screwdriver handle, it has like it's T-shaped.
Yeah.
So the handle you grab onto like this, and so the awl will come sticking out of here like that.
This, yeah.
This particular one, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, none of that stuff really came into play. There was one really, again, sort of looking back at that Italian zombie flick, Seth Rollins at one point had put the kendo stick, he sort of wedged it. I had seen this once or twice before. You can wedge it in like the top turnbuckle area, so it's just sort of jutting out. And at one point, he tried to ram Ray's head into that, his eye into that. At one point, Ray had broken the kendo stick in half, and he was trying to ram it into Seth's eye. And they even dolled up Seth's eye during mid-match a little bit to sell that, which I thought was pretty effective. We saw Seth use a chair to pin down Ray, try to pry the eye out that way. At one point, he just tried his gloved hand to try to do it that way. That ain't going to work.
That's not going to work. So, and then, of course, the ring steps did come in play several times. Both of them tried to use the ring steps to take an eyeball out. Towards the end, Ray takes the piece of shielding off his mask, of his right eye. It looks fine. And then, he tries to ram Seth's eye into the core of the ring steps. And that's when Seth hits Ray with a low blow. Super kicks Ray against the barricade, follows it up with a stomp. And then Seth is just pushing and pulling Ray towards the ring steps. Ray's trying to fight it off. He can't. Seth jams his eye into the core of the ring steps. He backs off, turns around, starts to approach again, looks at Ray, just freaks out. He's horrified.
And then they do a quick cut of Ray. You see that. And you see it just like briefly,
You see the little eyeball right here.
Just through his fingers, yeah.
And then Seth throws up all over the place. They really should an SNL thing where he's just throwing up all over the barricade.
With a tube.
Just like paint the plexiglass all around ringside with this vomit.
Oh, that'd be great. Dang MQ asks here in chat, so if Ray shows up on Dynamite, should he have both eyes? Didn't this happen? This just happened to the same eye, didn't it? Didn't he do this to the same eye? Yeah,
the same one. Yeah.
Because at one point he took off the eye thing on his mask, on his mascaras, and it was like he had like a white contact in there. So yeah, I don't know. Was that just meant to be Ray's symbolic eye? Like, was that like kayfabe? Was that a contact, or kayfabe was that like actually?
Well, he wears contacts.
He does that, yeah.
Sometimes, so I didn't really think too much of it.
Okay.
Double check, make sure it's the same eye. Yeah, it's the same eye. It's the right eye.
So I was entertained by this. I gave it 3.5 stars, man.
Yeah, it was entertaining. I mean, the finish, it didn't have the level of gore that we were maybe anticipating, or the CGI. We never saw a full eyeball on the ground. But the match was fun, and somebody lost an eye.
Yeah, there was a lot of creative stuff. There was some really good wrestling. Yeah. I thought it was fine, and you got to see a guy throw up. What more do you want?
Yeah, whatever we lost or didn't see in terms of gore, we made for in vomit. So that's something at least.
I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I think more wrestling should be like this. After that, we had a quick Bayley interview where she's asked, "Hey, one of your heroes is Rey Mysterio," and of course, Bayley first, very somber, says, "Ray, I know you just went through this. If you're listening, you don't have double vision. I've got 2 belts." And then she introduces Sasha, and of course they just talk crap about Sasha becoming the new Raw Women's Champion. That match was up next. We had, according to my notes here, Bayley versus Sasha. That was not the match. It was actually Asuka versus Sasha.
You're trying to look into the future.
I guess so, yeah. Look, these are Steve notes, man. You never know what's going to happen.
This match was absolutely fantastic with a really overbooked finish.
Yeah, it was.
Really overbooked finish.
It was
a lot of fun. Up until that finish, man, this was so good.
This was really good. A lot of it, the majority of it, though, was just, it was very creatively showing how powerful they're booking Sasha these days. Like, she was in control for much of this match. But I loved it every time Asuka would come back with something. Like, Sasha would eventually get the upper hand, but Asuka's always very creative with how there was that corner code breaker to Sasha's face. Mm-hmm. That was rad. Mm-hmm. Sasha powerbombing Asuka in a plexiglass was great. Asuka hit that back fist that she hit Bayley with a couple of weeks ago, and that always looks great.
There's a couple of huge German suplexes.
Sasha went up high for those.
Yeah.
Those were great. There was that great there was a hip attack in this that looked just, I've never seen a more violent looking hip attack before.
Sasha was really selling.
She was big time.
Yeah. So if we fast forward to the finish, so we get a few roll ups back and forth.
Do go from the bit where there's that second rope German suplex, and then Sasha goes up and she looks like she's gonna come off, and she slips.
Yeah.
And she starts selling her knee. She did this so perfectly. Like, we were all like, whoa, this is going to suck bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, as you described, that's what happened. Yeah. So she's selling like knee or shin or something. Yeah, at first you're like, oh, snap, something bad's happened here. But then she gets up. Her and Asuka starts trading blows. Sasha looks for a bank statement. Asuka countered with an Asuka lock. Bayley gets up on the apron. Kyrie pulls her off. They're brawling a bit ringside. Bayley takes her out with a Bayley to belly. A little bit later on, we get some roll-ups back and forth. Asuka locks in an Asuka lock. Bayley gets in the ring to distract the ref. Meanwhile, Sasha's tapping out. Ref doesn't see it because he's distracted by Bayley. Asuka lets go, comes over, kicks Bayley in the head. Meanwhile, Sasha has a tag belt. The ref's like, hey, put that down. Grabs it from her. She's arguing with him. She turns around. Asuka's right behind her. She gets out of the way. Asuka sprays green mist on the ref. And then she goes for an Asuka lock. And Bayley comes in, clocks her in the back with the tag title. And then she goes and takes off the referee's jersey. And I thought she was going to try to wipe the mist out of his face or something.
Mm-hmm.
But no, she takes the jersey off, puts it on herself. Sasha covers Asuka. Bayley counts the pinfall. Sasha wins. It's not like for reals though, because Bayley's not a referee.
So when is the last time, I mean, obviously like matches are made, otherwise these things wouldn't happen, but like they haven't really established any sort of authority figure for a while now. Mm-hmm. I really hope this isn't the kind of thing where they just let it stand. Somebody else
like to think it's something like WWE management reviewed and decided that have a rematch on Raw probably tomorrow.
Yeah. Who is this? Fear and Loathing says, yeah. So without a GM, MVP can make himself U.S. champ, and Bayley can play ref. That's why I do want to see some sort of authority figure to like.
It's kind of what McFoley would do sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
You don't need people. Your GM at the backstage and skit setting up matches. Just have the matches be set up.
It just doesn't. Yeah.
If the story requires, your GM or whomever to actually set up the match, fine, that's cool. Just don't make it a regular thing. Just when stuff like this happens, someone should come out and say, that's not how. You just can't put a referee on, then you're a ref. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, Jack Tunney needs to come back. They need to pay him a bunch of money to come back. I'm pretty sure he's dead though. Yes. So yeah, dude, I don't know. I don't like that kind of stuff. I guess what makes me wonder about it. I'm gonna play Conrad here really quick. Who came up with this idea, and why was this not laughed out of the room? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's like, okay, then she puts on the ref's shirt. At that point, somebody just be like, okay, well, no, no, you can't just put on. That doesn't give you magical powers of authority all of a sudden. That doesn't work.
I know.
Unless it's a situation where tomorrow night on Raw they say, well, she did this. She had no authority. The belt is back at Asuka.
Yeah.
But because of the finish, Sasha's going to get
match.
another match on Raw. Yeah.
And that match, that's when Bayley will try to do something similar and end up costing Sasha the match probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next, we got Charlie Caruso giving us a Ray health update from front of the traders room. And she mentioned she gives the exact name of what the official diagnosis was, but essentially Ray's eyeball was out of the socket. However, the optic nerve was still attached. Therefore, so long as blood flow was still good, she said doctors thought that they could put the eye back in. He might be able to see fine.
After that, I had that match at 2.5 stars. By the way, thought it was a really terrific match. But
what if the finish was better?
It'd been 3.5.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was a good finish, man. That was really good.
Wait, what are we talking about?
The Asuka Sasha one.
Yeah, but the finish was terrible.
I know it was. I'm saying, but if
it had a good one, it'd been 3.5.
Not 4? Nah, I feel like
maybe
that'd been a
3
4-star
3/4.
match if it was
Maybe
really
3
good.
3/4.
Man, you're a tough critic.
I think it should have been a little longer too. That was a good match, though.
It was really good.
Some of those high angle Germans, and then the little work bit in there, the work shoot bit. Yeah, maybe it'd have been 4, 2.5 with that finish. The next one had a really good finish, and I actually thought it was really, really cool, and I thought it was a really good match. Drew McIntyre versus Dolph Ziggler for the WWE Championship.
Yes.
So, of course, big question was, what's the stipulation that Dolph chose? He chose one that seemingly should have been a surefire win for him.
I think so.
He said this is going to be an Extreme Rules match that only applies to me, Dolph Ziggler. So Drew has to wrestle under the rules of a regular wrestling match. Dolph Ziggler, on the other hand, can do whatever he wants. Even the count out. Even Drew, the belt changes hands on a count out.
Or a disqualification.
Yes, correct.
And early on, it seemed like the stipulation wasn't even going to work for Dolph. He goes down to the ringside immediately, get a weapon. Drew meets him out there. Bang, sucker punch. Tosses him to the announce table, just throws them all around ringside. He's got control for a while, sets him for Claymore. Dolph rolls out of the ring. Drew follows. Dolph goes for his eyes, gets a chair, swings at Drew. Drew catches it. Dolph goes for super kick. Drew catches that too, and then he chucks Dolph out of the ring. It wasn't until Drew was ringside, gets Dolph up for a slam. Dolph escapes, pushes Drew into the ring post, then the barricade ring post again. Gets a table out from under the ring, sets it up. And then Drew suplexes Dolph like he's going to do it through the table. However, if he were to do that, that's disqualification. He does a 180, suplexes him on the floor, back of the ring. This is an amazing deadlift powerbomb, 2 count. Tide really turns for Dolph when he kicks Drew right in the front area.
Yes. Yeah.
Because after that, he hits like a famouser off the announce table, another famouser
that
on
was
the ring.
Great. Yeah.
That was fantastic. He gets in quite a bit of offense. At one point, Drew hits Dolph with a reverse Alabama slam, sets him up for a Claymore, and as Drew is approaching, Dolph just blasts him with a chair of the knee, hits a zigzag that gets him a 2, and then he super kicks Drew onto the table that's still ringside, goes up top, hits a top rope elbow.
Yeah.
That was great.
He got so much air on that too.
Drew barely beats the 10 count. But back in the ring, Drew hits Dolph with a headbutt, looking for a future shock DDT. Dolph escapes that, hits famouser, a zigzag, and a rock bottom on a chair.
That was nice to see.
And that
because you know why he hit the rock bottom, Larson? Because The Rock went on Instagram or Twitter, one of them, and said that Dolph was one of his favorite guys.
Oh.
And then Drew responded and said, "It doesn't matter what you think."
That's great.
That's why he hit the rock bottom. That's
great.
good. I just put that together. I was like, oh, that's why.
See, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
So after that, Dolph's setting up for a super kick. And while he's tuning up the band, Drew kips up as Dolph's starting his approach. It basically takes Dolph's head off with a Claymore.
The timing on that was so perfect. It was so perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, I thought this was a terrific match. I gave it 3 3/4, 3 3/4.
See, that seems fair.
Almost a 4-star match. If there was fans, may have been 4.
Yeah, I feel like fans really would have been into this.
Fans would have like been so into most of these matches. Seriously, like this, it's a shame. This one, Sasha, Asuka, or as I have it here in my notes, Bayley, Sasha.
You're just looking ahead to the future.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I think that's going to be more than 2.5 stars, though. Yeah, maybe I'll give that 3 stars. See, it's a fluid thing. It requires discussion, collaboration, thought,
review of your review,
a thorough review.
All right, now let's get into this swamp fight. I'm still not sure what to make of this.
So, I gave just in advance. I gave this 0.5 star.
That seems fair.
It was. I don't want to be Brian Alvarez here, but this is a whole lot of nothing, dude.
It was ponderous. It was overly talky.
It was masturbatory.
Without a whole lot of substance to it. Like the Firefly Funhouse match, there was a lot of talking, but there was a lot going on there. You know, this kind of felt like they were going to a lot of the same ground they have in their promos in the last few weeks. You know,
I do kind of feel, and maybe I'm looking way too deep into it, but Bray's a smart guy. Mm-hmm. Remember during that time, like when a lot of the time when Bray was Bray the way we saw him tonight, so often it's like they didn't have anything for him, so they would just have him go out there and cut a promo that it's like, okay, when Bray was on point, when he had a point to make, he could make it.
Yeah.
But if he had no point to make, he could talk, he could sound really convincing, but at the end he'd be like, he didn't even say anything. Mm-hmm. I feel like this match, given that it was a throwback to Bray Wyatt back then, might have been reflective of a lot of Bray Wyatt from back then, which was completely and totally aimless. This was a whole lot of nothing. And even the end was a nothing finish.
Yeah, it really was. It was all set up for something else. And like, Bray's Eater of Worlds run, it seemed like so much of it was a setup for something else that never really panned out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess if you want to be optimistic about it, and that was kind of what they were working with from a thematic standpoint, that's great.
I kind of doubt that that's what they were aiming to do, but that's how I took it.
All right, fair enough. So, you mentioned Braun blasting himself with the shovel. 2 Brauns, not Braun hitting himself with a shovel. There's 2 Brauns.
Yeah, there were 2 Brauns.
It was kind of the tone of it fell a little off for me to begin with. So, Bray's in a rocking chair waiting for Braun. Braun pulls up in a car. Braun gets out, tells Bray, "I'm home," and then the lights go out. Like, I get it but it was like pitch black, dark, completely dark.
Yeah.
So, and I understand how cameras work. If you turn off the headlights, it's going to look completely dark. Mm-hmm. However, unless there was a new moon out, there's going to be a moon in the sky. There's going to be some light.
Yeah.
Did Bray turn off the moon? That's my question.
Maybe. Eater of Worlds. Eater of Moons.
So when I saw that, I'm like, all right, I understand from a production standpoint how that's going to happen. Nonetheless, I'm guessing Bray didn't turn off the moon. Probably not. No. So then there's a bunch of random people just on the compound that Bray had to fight off. One of them hits Braun with a shovel. Off comes the mask. It's Braun himself. And then he comes to, and he's chained to a chair. And Bray walks in like a member of Undisputed Era blasting his own theme music.
Well, no, I liked your idea during the
speaker
stream.
And the lantern, yeah.
He had his lantern, and I feel like he had a Bluetooth speaker in there. Man, it's crazy what technology could do, man.
So this was like all talky. He's like, "Hey, welcome home, Braun. I missed you. You really made something of yourself, but you do know that this success is borrowed, it's temporary. But when they cast you aside, who will have his back?" And he says, "Braun, I want you to know that you are not my enemy, and I'm not your enemy. Together, we can rule the WWE, but first, I got to destroy the monster that you've become." And Braun says, "I don't care what you do to me. I'm not going to come back to you, Bray." And so then a woman comes in with a snake, and it seems like maybe the snake bit Braun.
They made it, without actually showing a snake bite. They made it seem like that was the case.
Like snake.
So, like, before we continue here, Zondo here in chat again. This is all review. This is all a thorough education of this to get to my star rating. He says Braun. He says there was drowning, people on fire, snake attacks, horny hallucinations, and Rawgate clones. Shouldn't this be a 4-star match? What's a movie that had all the ingredients but just oddly didn't work?
I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And I feel like that's what this was. Like, yeah, it had all that stuff, and yet all I can remember is Bray talking endlessly while Braun was sitting with chains loosely sort of laying over his arms, like he was supposed to be trapped there. That's my main takeaway from this. Although
that's what I remember most in the confusing ending.
I did like the Rawgate clones. Did you happen to see the ad for that WWE put out? It was just a still on Twitter. It was like a graphic they made of like Sasha, and there was like a Sasha for every title she had.
Yeah.
And I was like, again, they're ripping us off, man. That's Rawgate.
Yeah, man. So after Braun gets bitten by the snake, then he wakes up in a field. There's a little bit of fire in the background. I wonder if that's still smoldering from when Randy Orton lit the compound on fire.
Yeah.
And then a bunch more random people come in. Braun fights him off, pushes one dude into the fire. So he's running around on fire. And then Braun starts laughing about it, and he's like, oh, wow, I'm laughing because someone's on fire. And then he hears a voice, turns around, and I guess it's supposed to be kind of like Sister Abigail. This is kind of like the one interesting thing about, so many people speculating in fantasy booking various women wrestlers as Sister Abigail in situations. So this individual has a veil on, lift the veil, it's Alexa Bliss. She's calling to Braun. Of course, they have history, mixed match challenge.
She's saying that you always wanted to hit this. She's like, you always had a thing for me, Braun. And then it cuts to like shots from the mixed match challenge when they have all those rom-com-esque comedy of errors. She ends up like being, in his arms, and they're going to kiss or something like that. And then they get back into the action. They never really paid that off, I don't think. But yeah, so she's saying Braun, and then he's all, ugh. So he starts like, while you can assume engorging was happening, he started walking over to her.
Well, she's saying, come follow me home.
Yeah.
Bray comes in, goes for Braun's eyes.
He should have just started pelvic thrusting.
Oh, my God. Ooh. And then Braun body slams Bray onto Skarsgård, I think, the dilapidated boat.
Looked like it, yeah, it did.
So shout out to Matt Hardy. And so I think the boat kind of gets sent out into the swamp. Braun wanders out there, looks in the boat. Bray's not in anymore. Instead, Bray comes from behind, hits with an oar, tries to drown him in the swamp. They allude to maybe an alligator being in there, but we don't ever see it.
Yeah.
In the vicinity of them.
Yeah.
Braun disappears under the water, re-emerges. He climbs up on a dock. Bray's up there, continues his attack. Braun fights him off for a moment, and then Bray gets an axe handle and starts beating the heck out of him with it.
Yeah.
Screams. Says something real quick. Braun rises, boots Bray into the swamp. Where is he? And then, like, the little copyright logo pops up the bottom, like, that's the end of the show?
Right, yeah.
Really?
Bray can't swim. That was the point of it, I guess.
I guess so. But no, Bray emerges out of the water, puts the mandible claw on Braun, then pulls him in. Braun's struggling to get out, gets pulled back under. The water turns red. Either somebody farted in there or it started to boil. And the Fiend emerges, laughing, and says, "Let me in.
Let me in."
That's how the show ends.
He's just staring at the camera. Let me in. Okay, so yeah, a couple people pointed this out. I had mentioned the Jason versus Freddy thing, but yeah, I forgot. Even that was a throwback to like the original Friday the 13th, when like Jason does that or whatever. Oh, so Super Famous Pro says Matt Hardy tweeted something.
Oh.
I'm assuming about the dilapidated boat. Let's see what that might have been. Matt Hardy tweeted. So an hour ago, he just tweeted a picture of him rowing on the dilapidated boat. Or not a picture, it's like a GIF or a video of it.
That's funny. So that was the horror show. Sorry, Extreme Rules. There was some stuff to like, but there's some stuff that was kind of a head scratcher too.
Yeah, dude. Oh, that's funny. Remember during the stream when I was like, does Bayley have something written on the back of her head? She has dose straps. What a fool. That's fantastic.
That's pretty great. Would you like to answer some questions?
Yeah, well, we can answer some questions. I didn't put up a Patreon thread, but we can.
Okay, we got a few here in Twitch.
Yeah, sure.
Flats. If SmackDown doesn't have 3 to 4 sketches of Otis and Scuba Gear looking for Braun, it's a total failure.
I think that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Nats says, at least the octopus leg thing from Viking Raiders last pay-per-view didn't show up again. True.
Yeah. The real Chestnut, a while back I said Otis would consume the Fiend. This pay-per-view would have been the best time. Imagine Otis driving up and running with that briefcase just to become a snake himself and eat Bray.
I think that would have been
Braun.
terrific. That would
Yeah.
have been terrific. Joe asks, what's more terrifying, a horny Braun or a horny Otis? I think a horny Braun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too.
We've seen Otis. He could be a bit of a simp sometimes.
Glax, Seth Rollins versus Robert Stone at SummerSlam. First to puke loses the match.
Dragon H, just me or with Sister Abigail both Liv and Bliss? No, I don't think Liv Morgan had anything to do with that beyond like fantasy booking, right? Like a lot of people wanted that to happen, but they've never alluded to that.
Yeah, I don't think they really alluded to it. Matt the Mewtwo. This pay-per-view was full of great matches with bad finishes. Braun versus Bray was great, but a weird finish. Same thing with Sasha and Asuka and Ray and Seth.
Oh, the Ray versus Seth one was fine. Like they did what they set out
They
to
made
do.
all the sense. They came back around the ring steps.
Yeah, the
From
eye
the
came
storytelling
out.
perspective,
They
yeah,
did
that all makes
everything in that
sense.
match. Yeah, Sasha versus Asuka, terrific wrestling, but just an overbooked finish.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't know.
really
Sasha
overbooked
just,
finish.
or Bayley just put a picture on Instagram with Sasha with that title. So we'll see let me see if I wonder if WWE.com has any official
They probably will say they till tomorrow on the Raw preview.
word on that.
Fear and Loathing, Braun. Oh, you drowned me, brother.
So okay, all it says here is the title is Raw Women's Title Match ends in controversy. Let's see here.
One novice says going in Raw does star ratings now. Well, Steve does.
Oh, that's a brand new thing. It's me,
This is literally the second time you've done it.
and to be honest with you, it's a gag more or less. It's a conversation piece.
Fear and Loathing. Can you imagine Ray loses an eye and gets a $500 check for their match?
So wait,
That's
what?
his payout. Said Fear and Loathing says, can you imagine Ray loses an eye and then gets a $500 check?
I
for
know,
his
right? They're paying him Dean on the way out money.
match? Dean house show money, yeah.
So this the WWE.com result says Bayley struck Asuka with one of the women's tag team titles and put on the referee shirt to count a pinfall for Banks, unofficially hailing her partner as the victor and fleeing with the Raw Women's Championship. Sounds more like they're going to consider it stolen as opposed to a title change.
Fear and Loathing asks, tonight someone lost an eye. How far are we from in your house decapitation?
Not that far away. I could see that happening in one of like a Bray match, Supernatural. Like I can see him. He's got the decapitated lantern head. Like I could
True.
see him doing something weird as a fever dream. We saw Rawgate Braun tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as a fever dream type thing. Yeah, obviously, or some sort of hallucination.
I don't think they'd actually decapitate anybody.
No, I don't think you could. Gareth, Dolph was wearing a Space Force jacket in the ring tonight. Why not make that his next gimmick? Have you watched Space Force yet?
It's got a great cast. I haven't seen any of it yet.
I haven't seen it yet either. James, what's Ray's new gimmicks with his eye?
He's Mr. No Depth Perception.
Oh, there you go.
He just starts running into doors and stuff.
Jorge, how would Bret Hart review Asuka versus Sasha?
Dude, I have to actually watch or listen to his Paywall's podcast because I do kind of want to know. So he has like a out of 30 system, and I'm kind of curious, like, so his criteria, I think, in that original shoot interview was promo,
was being
look,
good.
and promo look and in-ring
Being good,
ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, we added legacy and kayfabe to it.
Yeah.
I mean, in ring, love it. It's great. The look, really great. They both look terrific. And then what's the other one? Promo. Well, they didn't really say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd probably rate it like, if it's out of 10, that's got to be a solid 6 wrestling match.
All right.
Probably more. It's just the finish was so crap.
Yeah, the finish was a bit much.
Sandra says here, I'm glad that I skipped this pay-per-view. I'm watching DDT Pro Money in the Bag, and it's fantastic. Sandra, here's the thing, though. A lot of the WWE stuff tonight felt like DDT stuff. Like, there was the eye for an eye match. There was a swamp match. Might be up your alley, dude. Just saying. Anyways, is that it?
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Man, just all the Twitch subs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody.
We're at 89%. We're so close to 500 subs.
Dear.
That's amazing. That's just absolutely amazing.
That is pretty cool.
So thanks everybody for doing that. Thank you. Oh, hold on. You know what? Hold on a second. We're not done. Hold on. The Eyebrow 96, 300 bits said, Discord update. Since you ignore us, your refs, you are refs in Horny Henry's TEW. So, TEW is Total Extreme Wrestling or something like that. It's the simulator thing, right?
Yeah.
Apparently you and I are refs in that.
Okay.
That's cool. That's good. I like that.
That is cool.
That's awesome. Good to know. Good note to go out on.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks everybody for watching. Oh, Sandra, I'll give her the last word. She says, but with trash finishes. That Eye for an Eye match didn't have a trash finish. It was good stuff. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. Twitch chat, stay tuned. We'll do a raid or something.
Yeah. Bye.